Hey, it is Friday. So glad you are here with me. I'm only smiling because some good things happened yesterday. At the very top is that Matt Gaetz, who until the very final hour, he was acting like it was no big deal, that he was welcoming the Senate confirmation hearings. His most loyal backers were saying it's going to happen until suddenly it didn't. And the reason why um, today's thumbnail puts it this way, it puts it on Donald Trump. This isn't about Matt Gaetz directly. This is the fact that Donald Trump was forced to ditch Gaetz. What does that mean? That means that he failed at his first attempt to try to impose the ultimate loyalty test, you guys. If Matt Gaetz had been pushed through via a recess appointment, that would have meant that he would have been, so the way it would have been done, right, is because right now, as you know, Chuck Schumer runs the Senate. It couldn't be done now, right? The recess appointment would have had to have been done after the new Congress is sworn in, right? That would have happened between January 3rd. It would happen anytime after January 3rd. And the bottom line is, because the Republicans will control the House and the Senate, all you need is them all to get in line and allow for a recess, allow them to go into recess, and for Donald Trump to go ahead and appoint Gaetz and whatever other disgusting person who has facilitated or engaged in rape of a child. And you know what? There are more than one, not just allegedly Matt Gaetz. Of course, we will get into that on Donald Trump's cabinet. But at any rate, Donald Trump wanted to use the recess appointment process to force through all his nominees very quickly without any kind of Senate confirmation. And as you know, there is not even an FBI background check. But Donald Trump backed the F down. When Matt Gaetz announced that he was withdrawing his nomination, when he said, "I'm not in it anymore," you best believe that he checked with Donald Trump first, right? Dude needs a pardon, probably. Well, he actually maybe doesn't need a pardon, because I think Merrick Garland has pretty much made it clear that his DOJ isn't going to go after Gaetz. But, there will be a new sheriff in town, and I'm sure Gaetz is nervous about that. So whether or not he's going to get a pardon at the federal level, or he is just going to make sure he stays in Donald Trump's good graces, there's no question in my mind that he must have communicated to Donald Trump that he was no longer in the running. Now, you may say to yourself, what changed? Was it just the pressure? What changed such that people who were standing by Gaetz, who were confident Donald would get that recess appointment, what changed? What changed? And let me give you an example of what was happening on Tuesday, right? Yesterday morning, on Wednesday. Yesterday morning, on Thursday morning, I showed you this clip. This was Matt Gaetz making the rounds in the Senate. So let's play that for you.
How have your meetings been today, sir?
They've been going great. Senator's been giving me a lot of good advice. I'm looking forward to a hearing. Folks have been very supportive. They've been saying we're going to get a fair process. So it's a great day of momentum for the Trump-Vance administration.
That was Wednesday, right? And, I'm not sure it was going all that well for him. But at that point, he was not announcing he was dropping out, right? And then we had yesterday morning. So let me just give you the time frame. The news broke around 11:30-ish yesterday, Thursday, that Matt Gaetz had withdrawn his nomination. So that happened in the morning. Shortly before that, we had folks going on the morning news shows still defending him. Let's play that. And this is a Republican. Here we go.
I understand what you're saying about Pete Hegseth, and I'm going to follow up on that in just a
one second. This is a Republican in the U.S. Congress,
I
Rep.
understand what you're saying
Warren
about
Davidson.
Hegseth, and I'm going to follow up on that in just a second. But on Matt Gaetz, you know, I take your point about who Trump he didn't like who he put in there before. He wants a loyalist. But this is the chief law enforcement officer in the country, the attorney general. Why shouldn't the American public see what is in this ethics report, especially given the precedent that I laid out?
The American people knew the kind of mandate they were giving Donald Trump when they elected him president of the United States. And they know that the Department of Justice has been weaponized. We've had a weaponization task force that's exposed this, and the administration needs to have a leader like Matt Gaetz who's going.
Okay, what a way to dodge. Okay, the question was, if Matt Gaetz is going to be the AG, right? This was before he dropped out. This congressman was being asked the question, pretty simple question from Pamela Brown on CNN. Shouldn't the American people be able to actually see this report? And his response was, first, well, the people of America knew who they were electing. Yeah, some of us knew. Remember, he didn't get an actual majority. But yeah, so what you're saying is we knew we were electing a rapist, an adjudicated rapist, so that any of his appointees would have the same criminal background? I don't think that's what he meant. But then he said, Donald Trump was going to put in someone in who wouldn't weaponize the DOJ. I don't think Merrick Garland weaponized the DOJ. I'm here to say that he neutered the DOJ pretty much. But that aside, that nonsense pretty much ended when Matt Gaetz actually dropped out. And if you know, there is a reason that he did. And let me share with you I didn't download it. Give me 1 second. I have it, but let me just share with you this story because it's interesting to me. I did not realize kind of until the last minute why he actually backed out. So let me just, I have this right here for you. And I am going to pull it up and you'll see this is some reporting from yesterday. And I think, I just thought that it was pressure, accumulated. Donald Trump was getting the message that there was no way he was going to force this through. But there was something that immediately precipitated it. So let's look at this. There was a new story. Let me add this for you right here. So what happened, according to Paula Reed of CNN, that Gaetz withdrew from the AG nomination 45 minutes after CNN called him to say that they were planning to report that the ethics committee told them that the ethics committee was told, that there was a second sexual encounter, i.e. statutory rape, between Gaetz and the 17-year-old in 2017. How about that? How about that situation? So I would like to commend CNN for doing the work of investigative journalism and demonstrating to us the power of a free press. This was too much, apparently, this might have been the tipping point. I think at that point, I'm imagining CNN would have called Gaetz. I wonder if they called Donald Trump down at Mar-a-Lago to get his comment. And I see, yes, Joan Cooney. Yeah, I do hope this report comes out in public, whether it leaks or it is actually released because the House Ethics Committee decides to do so. But you know what? I'm sorry, I was trying to remove Matt Gaetz, not myself. So let me tell you this. You're gonna believe this. But you know how Matt Gaetz resigned his seat in the Congress representing his district in the Florida Panhandle? You're probably also aware there's going to be a special election to fill it. He's going to run for his old seat, he thinks. He thinks. That's what people are saying. People, members of Congress. And so it is critical that this report come out so that he does not run for his seat, because that would not be a good lesson for the public, that after all of this, no harm, no foul, no, lots of harm. Now, we will hear a lot more about Matt Gaetz into the future, but we now have one down, many to go. Next on our target list, and I say our, people who actually care about justice and think that rape is actually a crime that should be either punished or at least be disqualifying to be a member of the cabinet. We now turn to Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, the man who has been nominated to be the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth of the sporting far-right tattoos, a tattoo on his arm associated with the Crusades, as well as some other stuff symbolizing, and maybe that does also, sympathy with the insurrection, which is not to say he's silent about his very strange authoritarian views. He's quite clear about that. And would it surprise you that someone whose mindset is based on domination and control would have that sort of same sexual fetish where rape is the way he courts women? Not at all. It seems perfectly in line with that. So you must remember that Pete Hegseth has been credibly accused, and it has come out because there was no adequate vetting of his nomination. Shocker. It's come out that he allegedly sexually assaulted, that he raped somebody, a woman who was attending a Republican women's convention. And we've talked about this for a few days now, but now the police report has come out. The police report had come out, by the way, before Pete Hegseth was cornered in the hallway, and he was asked specifically about this. And you will see how he responds to the allegations. I am going to share this with you right now. I'm sure you have seen this clip. Let's talk on the other side.
Absolutely nothing for granted, and we welcome the opportunity to talk to any senator that wants to talk to us.
Did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California?
I have, as far as the media is concerned, it's very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.
What? Okay. I think the question presented was, did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California? And the answer could have been no. That would have been, if that is what he believes, he should have said no. He didn't. His response began, as far as the media is concerned. That's a weird response. Let's take a listen to that right now. Again.
Take absolutely nothing for granted, and we welcome the opportunity to talk to any senator that wants to talk to us.
Did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California?
I have, as far as the media is concerned, it's very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.
I'm going to, I don't mean to make light of this, but can you imagine saying to someone, hey, I was saving that slice of pizza for lunch. Did you eat it? And your kid or your spouse saying to you, as far as the media is concerned, I've been entirely cleared of that. I mean, Jesus. Not only, you look at this guy's face. Not only is he a credibly accused rapist and a Christo-fascist, but he's also a moron, which shouldn't surprise anybody, I guess, because you listen to that. How hard, if he actually believes, if his position is that it was consensual, then he should have said no. If that's what he really believes, but he couldn't even stick with his own damn story. And this is when I want to tell you that it is a bad situation. I'm not going to read to you from the police report. It's something that you can find online. And where can you find that online? Well, you should probably find things like that online. You can, go to a news source by Googling, or you can go to, one of my favorite places now, which is called Blue Sky. Let me give you a little pitch once again for Blue Sky. So here's the deal. I think you'll be excited to hear this, or maybe not. Maybe I am. This is the first time that I've done this. I have completely locked down my Twitter account. I have deleted every single tweet. I used a sort of a bulk deleting JavaScript. There's one little glitch with it. I had downloaded in 2022 when I was planning to do this, all those tweets. So everything from when I started in 2009 to 2022, holy moly, all of that is gone. The stuff that came between 2022 and now, I still am waiting for Twitter to download that, because right now all that stuff is kind of appearing not in my feed, but like as under the media section. I can't figure that out. I'll get it all wiped. If you go to my Twitter page, all you will see will be me, my face, and a blue sky and a note. The only post that you should see on Twitter is a quote from one of my favorite songs from a musical, from Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And all it says is, where trouble melts like lemon drops away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me. Okay, blue skies. I know the song is called Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but you can kind of figure it out because there's a picture of a blue sky. What I'm showing to you right now on the screen, I've mentioned this before, Blue Sky has these things called starter kits. I have this really good one I set up called Follow the Big Dirty Money. It's named after my book, Big Dirty Money. And it has like people like Jesse Eisinger, who is the reporter from ProPublica, who's won a Pulitzer Prize years ago, seems like yesterday, for his reporting on the financial crisis. He wrote a white-collar crime book called The Chicken Ship Club. He is also now the sort of senior, we had him on the show, right? He also manages he doesn't do the white-collar crime beat. He does the public corruption beat, which, guys, these things intersect. And he is the one who oversaw that fantastic reporting into the Supreme Court justices, both of them, Alito and Thomas, the kinds of favors they were taking from their billionaire benefactors. I've got folks on here who, there are people who are academics, who are experts in the field. There are writers. I'm still waiting for some folks to come over to Blue Sky. And when they do, I will add them. If you're on Blue Sky and you see someone missing on my Dirty Money starter pack, let me know. I cannot tell you how much better it is there. It's just better. It's like a really good way to communicate and to share news. So that gets us back to this. If you want to know what is in the Hegseth report, you can go there and find out. Now, like I said, one down, many to go. Pete Hegseth cannot be the Secretary of Defense, and he will not be the Secretary of Defense. There is no way he survives this process. I think Donald Trump is being defeated. Will be defeated once again, but it's going to be hard for him because he's already lost one battle. I cannot imagine them letting this guy through to run the military here. It's just not to be the civilian head. That's just not going to fly. It's not going to fly. And so I don't know what's going to happen next, but I think these rape allegations will get more serious. And I think he too will have to withdraw his nomination. Now, let's talk about who Donald Trump nominated to replace Matt Gaetz. And I'm surprised about this. Donald Trump had put forward someone to be his deputy attorney general, and this was one of his personal lawyers. And you may remember he already nominated one of his personal lawyers to be Solicitor General. Different job. We've talked about it before, but just for clarification, the Attorney General is in charge of the entire Justice Department, the FBI, all of the sort of supervises all of it's like 93 U.S. attorneys' offices and so on. In contrast, the Solicitor General has an important job, but doesn't oversee the entire apparatus. Their job is to be an advocate for the interests of the government and will come in and write briefs on behalf of the government's positions in cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. We have an amazing person, Elizabeth Prelogar, and I'm probably pronouncing her last name incorrectly. She is utterly brilliant. I saw her argue 2 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court about a year ago. One involved the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy, and the other involved a really significant tax case where the good side ended up winning. Okay, so who has Donald Trump nominated now to be his AG? Yet another loyalist. It is Pam Bondi. And you may wonder who she is, but I suppose where we are at this point is you're not wondering because you've seen her probably if you've turned on the television, you've seen her over the news. If you have not, then maybe you have avoided. She is a terrible choice. This is what Donald Trump had to say when he nominated her, that he was proud to nominate her, that she, as a next attorney general, he says she's a prosecutor for 20 years. Yeah, he says she was tough on violent criminals. Boy, she was light on fraud when it came to Donald Trump. We'll get to that. And made the streets safe for Florida families. But safe for Florida families, what about the grift of stealing money from people from their bank accounts, right? So he goes on and talks about here, what she has done for white collar crime. Now, I just want to let you know, the minute I heard that she was the nominee, I knew I did not have to look at any sources. It was at the dinner table last night. My youngest kid and Michael, hi, Michael, we were sitting around talking about the news. And my kid had, I think years ago, my children have learned to take my phone away from me so I won't look at it. And my kid was going through the news and saw the new nomination and told me about it. And I was like, oh, great. Pam Bondi? I said, isn't Pam Bondi the same person when she was AG of Florida that she dropped a case that was pending against Donald Trump related to his fake university? And I was like, I think that happened. And I said, oh, great. Maybe she's not a credibly accused sexual assaulter or someone who covers up like Linda McMahon allegedly did child sexual abuse, but she is someone who is dirty in terms of the dirty money situation. Because as I was sitting there, I remembered, and I'm going to share the details with you from the person who knows best, Tristan Snell, in 1 second. I was like, I think she dropped the case in exchange for a campaign. I think the allegation was at the time that she dropped the case against Donald Trump on behalf of Florida citizens because she got a nice fat check in her campaign account. That is what I remembered. Now, a memory at dinner needs to be fact checked. I can't just, say that is the story. So what I want to share with you then is what Tristan Snell had to say. Now, Tristan Snell, of course, he is a lawyer. He's sometimes on MSNBC, but he's famous in my mind for prosecuting the Trump University case on behalf of the New York AG. Now, I want to share with you that in Big Dirty Money, I write a lot about this case, and I am hugely disappointed that the case ended up being settled. It was RICO, a racketeering case. It ended up being settled civilly. It was not a criminal case, but at any rate, Donald Trump ended up paying, or his fake university ends up paying $25 million. And you might kind of have forgotten what that case was about, but basically Donald Trump set something up that was not a university and used his name and his reputation, largely from The Apprentice, to make it look like he was a successful real estate business guy, and he was going to give the tips of the trade to people who would sign up. And they would sign up for a course, and then they would be upsold on a higher level course. The people who were supposedly handpicked by Donald Trump were just salespeople with very little experience, basically reading scripts. Now, I'm reading to you. This is important to me before I get to Tristan Snell. I don't often read to you, if ever. Maybe I've done it once from my book, but I am on page 117 of Big Dirty Money. And I want to let you know that it was Eric Schneiderman, who was the Attorney General at the time. And I will read this to you, page 116 to 117. So when I say that, and I say in this book that people like Donald Trump, especially him, if he had actually been held accountable for the crimes that he committed, I believe he would have spent time in prison and not the Oval Office. And I know in your mind you're thinking, what is she talking about? Didn't this case settle after he was elected? It settled for $25 million after he was elected. However, the case began well before that. Allow me to tell you this. So shortly after he took office in July of 2011, Eric Schneiderman, who was the AG of New York, began investigating Trump University. At that point, they had renamed it the Trump Entrepreneur Initiative. In May of 2011, Schneiderman subpoenaed documents. Then in August of 2013, on behalf of the state of New York, he sued. You heard me, that was 2013. In the complaint, Schneiderman alleged that this fake educational institution had brought in tens of millions of dollars of revenue, largely by misleading customers through fake promises and outright lies. Trump claimed to have handpicked the instructors, but he had not. Plus, they had little training themselves, and victims spent thousands of dollars of their savings and went into debt to attend these courses. Yes, this ties into Pam Bondi because it wasn't just citizens or residents of New York who were victimized by this fake university. It was also people who were Florida residents, or as we say in law, citizens. Now, this is the part that gets me, right? So angry about it. When there was an opportunity for the Attorney General, this is Schneiderman, to bring criminal charges against Trump's fake university, he instead orchestrated a civil settlement. In 2013, when he was investigating Trump's enterprise, rumors were circulating, right? Guys, if you're just jumping in, I'm reading, this is totally vetted and fact-checked. It's actually my book, and it makes me fume. So again, in 2013, when he was investigating Trump's enterprise, rumors were circulating that Schneiderman had physically assaulted several women. This information was apparently passed by an attorney named Peter Gleason to Trump's then personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who said he discussed it with Trump himself. And we can see evidence on Twitter that Trump let Schneiderman know he had some dirt on him. On September 11th, 2013, private citizen Donald Trump tweeted the following, quote, "Weiner is gone, Spitzer is gone, next will be lightweight AG Eric Schneiderman. Is he a crook? Wait and see, worse than Spitzer or Weiner." You might remember Elliot Spitzer, former AG, alleged to have engaged in sexual acts with prostitutes at the same time that he was cracking down on people in prostitution, including men who used prostitutes, right? You may remember Anthony Weiner. I don't want to tell you what he did. You can Google it if you don't know. So what I said, and this is true, that this was an obvious allusion to sexual impropriety. Otherwise, there would have been no reason to include Anthony Weiner in the tweet. While Spitzer had held the same office that Schneiderman did, that of AG, Weiner was a member of Congress. We don't know if Schneiderman read the text, but if he did, the message was received. So is it possible? So this is the part when I want to talk to you about what happened in New York. And I'm going to get to Pam Bondi. It's even worse what she did. So is it possible this pressure led Schneiderman to go lighter, to agree to a relatively small $25 million civil RICO settlement in 2016, just weeks after Trump was elected president? We will never know. But when the full story came out in May of 2018 of the physical assault allegations, Schneiderman did resign from office under pressure. There is some further support that this damaging information on Schneiderman may have influenced his actions in the Trump University matter. In May of 2018, that same lawyer, Peter Gleason, sent a letter to federal judge Kimba Wood informing her, and she's a federal district court judge in the Southern District of New York, sent her a letter informing her that two women, one in 2012 and one in 2013, had informed him that Schneiderman had been sexually inappropriate with them. Gleason also told Judge Kimba Wood that he'd passed this information on to a journalist, and the journalist offered to speak with Trump about the matter. Gleason said he believed Trump had been informed based on a phone conversation he'd had with Trump's personal lawyer. At any rate, just giving you the background, the whole manner in which the Trump University racketeering case involving fraud, underlying crimes, the whole way it was managed out of New York was corrupt. There's no question in my mind that this case could have been brought as a criminal case. It's always easier to bring a civil one. And there's also no question in my mind that Pam Bondi dropped the matter out of Florida in exchange for money, based on what I have read. Now, let's talk, guys, about what the lawyer, and I had to give you that background before I told you about Tristan Snell, and because I want to let you know that he was working in an office at the time for Eric Schneiderman. Tristan Snell is a good guy. I'm not trying to tarnish him, but without the full picture, I would be depriving you of the details of the research that I have done that you need to know, because as bad as it was in New York, it was worse in Florida. So what did Tristan Snell have to say? Well, he's got this epic thread over, you could read it on Twitter, but if you've quit Twitter like me, you're going to have to look at this on Blue Sky. Okay, so here is what Tristan Snell had to say. Okay, and this is a multi-part thread, but it's pretty basic. I'm not going to read it to you. I have read it, and I can tell you what he had to say. So basically, he said that he was at the New York AG's office, working for Schneiderman, essentially. He didn't mention his name, when Pam Bondi was the Attorney General of Florida, guys. And so, again, aligned with what I just read to you, it was August of 2013 that he filed the AG's prosecution of Trump University. And he had alleged at that time $42 million of fraud. Now, this was it could have been brought as a criminal case. This, prosecution again ends up being a civil settlement. And he mentions that, when this case was brought, it made huge national headlines. Now, remember, it's 2013. This is before Donald Trump goes down that escalator to announce his candidacy. Okay, but in this case, he filed it, let me just give you the specific date, August 24th, 2013. And I'm getting into the weeds because 4 days later, on August 28th, and they did not know, this was unbeknownst to the team at the New York AG's office. Unbeknownst to them, 4 days later, Trump's assistant, Rona Graff, had an email exchange with Pam Bondi's campaign, her campaign. Specifically, she sent an email or had an email exchange with the finance director so she could obtain information about how to and where to send a $25,000 donation to Pam Bondi's political action committee. Okay, that happens 4 days later, right? after there's a lot of publicity about the RICO case brought in New York. At that same time, Tristan Snell and Schneiderman's office did not know that this campaign donation was being arranged. But at the same time, they had been in touch with Pam Bondi's office to see if they wanted to join the case. And this is pretty common that state AGs will check in with the other AGs to see if they want to share resources in terms of time and research and so on. And by the way, this is important, the largest number of victims of Trump University's scam were Florida residents. That's where Florida had the most victims. So at that time, in addition to reaching out to Florida, I mean, this is kind of amazing. They sent all the key documents that they had, that the New York AG had, the key documents. They gathered them and they sent those to Florida in September after Labor Day. So New York thought that Florida would be joining the case. But then suddenly, right, after sending all those documents, what happens? I mean, what happens next is that Florida ghosts them. They, behind the scenes, they're arranging for the Attorney General of Florida to get this campaign contribution. They don't mention it. They let the AG of New York send the information. Now, that's Labor Day, right? So we go from RICO case filed August 24th of 2013. 4 days later, we get the Trump business organization reaching out to the Bondi campaign and sending $25 million to her, or finding a way to do that. We don't know that was email record. We don't know what happened in between, right? We don't know how that happened, who said to do that, if any direct conversation was had with Bondi. And then we also know that if like a week later, New York is sending the key information, the key documents, to see if Florida will join with them in the case. Florida doesn't mention that there's a conflict of interest. They just take that and then they ghost. They go away. Well, what happens next? Basically, this is like a week later-ish, 10 days later. So in September, like mid-September, Donald Trump, and again, New York didn't know this. Donald Trump sent one of Bondi's PAC's $25,000 checks, misspelling Bondi's name, and basically wrote a note, "Dear Pam, you are the greatest." So he saw it. I'm sorry, he didn't send it. And okay, so after that, we come to find out. I mean, it gets dirtier and dirtier. That check that Rona Graff was arranging for wasn't sent from Trump's business. He had the Trump Foundation, the charity. Remember his charity that got shut down? It was his charity that sent the $25,000 check, a tax-exempt charity that was not lawful. And at that point, the charity ends up being, and it was also Tristan Snell out of the New York AG's office, where they were able to later, and then of course when Tish James gets there as well, they or actually right before Tish James got in office, there was an they had someone else who replaced Schneiderman temporarily, and basically they were able to shut down Donald Trump's charity. Now, that is Pam Bondi. This is who he has nominated to be the Attorney General. And folks, there's even more. Pam Bondi was also one of the lawyers defending Donald Trump at his impeachment hearing, at the first impeachment hearing. And she is pro-Russia, anti-Ukraine. Okay, so that's where we are. And I do think that for Crazy Town, friends, I would like to close the week out and share with you the joke of Crazy Town here. It's going to be none other than Pam Bondi allegedly. Remember, Donald Trump wanted Vladimir Zelensky to stand up in front of a camera and say that he was investigating Joe Biden. And he wanted him to do that, to do us a favor, before he released the weapons that Zelensky needed to defend himself against Russia, which were really important because later, as you know, Russia ended up invading Ukraine. Like, this was summer of 2019 when Donald Trump wanted the quid pro quo, and we get into the impeachment hearings were in early 2020 while Donald Trump was still president. This is the first impeachment, and as you know, Putin ends up invading Ukraine at the beginning of 2022. This was serious business even then. Let's play it for you so you get a sense of who the Attorney General is likely to be.
In early 2014, Joe Biden, our Vice President of the United States, led the United States foreign policy in Ukraine with the goal of rooting out corruption. According to an annual study published by Transparency International, during this time, Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries in the entire world.
So I guess they deserve
In Ukraine, there's a natural gas company called Burisma. Burisma has been owned by an oligarch named Mykola Solchevsky.
This is
Here's
true.
what happened very shortly after Vice President Biden was made U.S. point man for Ukraine. His son, Hunter Biden, ends up on the board
Hunter
of
Biden.
Burisma,
There we go.
working for and paid by the oligarch Solchevsky. In February